Nothing for me. Everything for them. Nothing for me. Everything for them. At some point she lost control and started sobbing, crying so hard she thought her heart would stop. She had been raped. The bastard had raped her. Repeatedly. But that was not how the message on the tape sounded. She couldn't blame Miss Yost for doing what she did. Wilma gazed across the bedroom to the closet in the corner. Through the open crack in the door, she could barely see the handle on top of the briefcase peeking out from under a pile of dirty clothes. Inside the case was the remainder of the $100,000 down payment they'd given her the night she made the deal. She was due another $100,000 after committing perjury at the trial in Henshaw, but Jimbone said it might be a month before she'd get it. Wilma choked out another sob, feeling hollow. The money was for the girls. For Lori Ann, for Jackie. She ground her teeth together. Nothing for me. Everything for them. Now they were gone. And deep down, Wilma knew they were better off without her. Glaring at the closet, she felt hate for herself burning inside her like an inferno. Everything is my fault. She let her eyes drift to the open bedroom door and out to the empty hallway. The house was normally bustling with the sounds of her girls. Lori Ann, a teenager talking about boys and cheerleading, and Jackie still in the boys have cooties stage of elementary school. She smiled at the memories, but her eyes clouded with tears. The house was silent as a morgue now. They're gone, she knew. And I have nothing. Nothing. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, got up and walked over to her dresser. She pulled the pistol out of the top drawer and slowly loaded it. What comes around goes around. She took off all her clothes and turned on the overhead light in the bedroom. Then she looked in the mirror and pointed the pistol at her head. You deserve this. Then she closed her eyes and pulled the trigger. Part 1. 1. Tuscaloosa, Alabama, May 8, 2012. Raina Farrell probably wouldn't have heard the gunshots if she hadn't been so hyper-aware of her surroundings. Even after the beer she'd had at Buffalo Phil's, and despite it being a Tuesday night, and neither she nor Dr. Newell having seen anyone else on the Riverwalk, Raina was still on edge. As they sat next to each other on a wrought iron bench at the park at Manderson Landing and gazed out at the dark waters of the Black Warrior River, Raina whipped her head around to look behind her, to the side, and then back to the water. For early May, there was a slight chill in the air, but the cold had nothing to do with why she was shivering. Relax, Dr. Newell said, whispering in her ear as he moved his hand under her skirt. Lift up a little. Raina smelled beer mingled with the faint undertone of nicotine on his breath. She had never been with a smoker before, and the scent didn't bother her as much as she thought it would. If anything, it added to the overall feeling of naughtiness, of crossing an ethical line that made what they were doing so damn hot. Trying to calm herself, she took in a gulp of air and swallowed, tasting the afterburn of the shot of Fireball they'd done before leaving the restaurant. When she was nervous on the golf course, she had taught herself to concentrate on her breathing. She would also focus on objects in the distance as she waited to hit a shot. The green, the fairway, a clump of trees. Anything that took her mind off her score or how she was playing and let her engage in the moment. Trying this now, she drew in another deep breath and slowly exhaled. Then she looked across the river and trained her sight on a dock on the far shore about 300 yards away. Inhale. The structure jutted out into the dark water at least 50 feet and was illuminated by a fog light shining down from the adjacent boathouse. Exhale. Keeping her eyes on the dock and feeling Dr. Newell's breath against her ear, she raised her hips, and her heart thudded as he slid off her underwear. The bench felt icy cold on her bare buttocks, and she giggled. What? He asked as he unclipped the belt buckle on his pants. Nothing. Just thinking how crazy this is. What if we get caught? The risk is half